Greetings to you wherever you are watching the AM show on the Joy News channel. Today we are privileged to have a statesman, someone who's been part of the fabric of the democracy of this country for all these years since we entered the Fourth Republic and even before. I mean, this is a man who's been a former deputy defense minister, someone who's been a member of the consultative committee that drafted the 1992 Constitution, the document that currently still dictates to us how to go about our democracy in this country. He's been someone who has been a senior presidential aide and head of the policy evaluation and oversight unit of the Office of the President. You remember the late President Atamils from 2009 to 2013. He's also a former Ghana's ambassador to the Netherlands. And this is a man who has been around and so has a lot of experience in the issues that concerns the motherland Ghana. Today, we have him here to have this chat with him. Dr. Tony Aidoo, good morning to you and thanks for coming.
Good morning.
We're grateful
Thank you.
We're grateful that you've hosted us in your house.
Okay.
Now,
My pleasure.
I would want us to start from the latest development in Ghana. I'm sure on Friday you sat by your TV to monitor proceedings in Ablekuma North.
I did.
As you watched what was unfolding, what was going through your mind?
I said, which direction is Ghana's democratic practice going? And I was quite perturbed, especially since the police standing by were not doing anything to stop the chaos. And also the victim was a woman. Of course, she's a very controversial one, but that does not justify her being assaulted. I don't know what she did to provoke the onslaught of that incident. But whatever it is, it represents a historical phase that appears to be persistent. 1992, when we started the multi-party democracy, there was an NDC chairman at Ifia meeting who was killed and burned. It was rationalized as an internal dispute between him and some NDC members. Then came 1996. During the campaign, one NDC guy called Gruponi was also murdered. This time, clear evidence point to MPP people beating this man to death. Since then, it seems every election, especially by-election, seems to attract one violence or another. And I begin to wonder whether this democracy is worth it. Because the common people don't seem to be benefiting from it. And yet, they are the active participants in political violence. And such violence creates a culture of lawlessness. But you see, lawlessness seems to be the characteristic feature of Ghanaian society. There's hardly any facet of our country's endeavor and behavior that is not characterized by lawlessness. The police, the military, the civilian, the churches, and the wider society, the government personnel, and so on and so forth. We have become a nation of sycophants to the extent that as soon as one government changes and another regime replaces it, all allegiance is switched to the new government. But your loyalty is not to the regime, it's to the Constitution. If you're a public and civil servant, you don't owe the new regime anything beyond your constitutional duties. And this is what doesn't seem to permeate the behavioral disposition of Ghanaian public and civil servants. Well, you see, this lawlessness and sycophancy reared its head during the Kufuor regime. Okay. It was from 2001 when President Kufuor started planting party people at the ministries as special advisors and so on and so forth. That's when something clicked and the professionalism of the civil and public servant disappeared.
It had not happened prior to him?
No. I was not here during the Buzia regime, so I wouldn't know. And the PNDC regime was a military one, military cum civilian. So I cannot use that as an example. But as a kid growing up under the Nkrumah regime, we had a civil service that saw the Constitution as a prime controller, as a prime instrument, demanding the loyalty and performance of your duties. Today, it's not like that. And this is very bad for the future of Ghanaian democracy.
So, I mean, you say that the police were standing by, doing nothing.
Yeah. I wonder why.
Would you blame the hierarchy and the sort of command they gave the police?
I don't know. The Minister for Interior, Montaka, was on air, I think, during the Meet the Press series today.
Yeah.
There were so many questions asked of him, but that question was never put to him, whether the indolence or apathy of the police during that incident was the result of directives given to them or because of the cultural phenomenon, which I call sycophancy, that this is political. So let's stand down and watch. It's no good. You cannot get the trust of citizens if you behave like that. You see? And like I said earlier, our society seems to be characterized by increasing lawlessness. Every facet of our activity is governed by self-interest and disobedience of the law.
And how does that make you feel as someone who believed so much in the democracy? As I'm sure when we started in 1992 and we were going to be ushered into the Fourth Republic, you had a certain trust and belief that Ghana will work. But looking at what is happening, do you still hold on to those beliefs you started out in 1992?
It's not belief, expectations, okay, and my desire that we will open a new light of democracy. But we seem to have defined the democracy in such limited terms that it finds expression in only successive elections. Beyond that, what else? Do the common people reap benefits from the democracy? What has happened is the creation of a privileged political class and their cohorts. And they keep changing, musical chairs. Every 8 years, you go and we will come and we will chop and you go. That is not what we conceived to be the democratic path. I recall during the Consultative Assembly when we started, every member was allowed to make a statement. My statement was that we shouldn't copy blindly. that systems which have worked somewhere else will not necessarily work under different environment. Development is not a linear thing that every stage should be traveled by every country. That's not it. That was the statement I made. And I wanted to see a new face of commitment to democracy, but we haven't seen that. Government after government. It doesn't matter which party is in power. The result is violence upon violence, lawlessness upon lawlessness. Why? Is it the fault of the political leadership? No. As a sociologist, I'm inclined to view Karl Marx, as one of the best philosophers we have seen, because his theory pinpointed methodologically where we should look for cause and effect. Structuralism was his approach. The structural impulses within any society is what promotes behavior. And
so we cannot blame the political leadership that stood by and watched what happened in Ablekuma.
We have to blame ourselves too. You see, the situation is intersubjective. What I mean is, there's the system, there's the action. When they are fused together, you cannot look for causes in the system alone or in the action alone. Okay. It has to be intersubjective. But is it a chicken and egg argument? The way we started is very problematic. Osafo was the chairman of the representation of the People's Committee. And when the time came for us to debate the constitutional chapter on the Council of State, I stood up. And I mean, 4 hours we debated it. I wanted the Council of State to be represented as a second chamber, in which members will represent occupational groups. Every occupation will find a candidate and put it in the Council of State. I gave it to Osafo, I remember. He never tabled it. Yao Osafo. He was the chairman. Yeah. So when we went to plenary, for 4 hours, my amendments against the establishment of the Council of State was the discussion. It got to the point at which I got frustrated, and I said I withdraw this amendment, because I didn't see that it was going to create such a fuss. Delay Sampi Ali, when I went to the lobby, sought to drag me back into the, don't give up, don't give up. I said, no, I'm tired. If people won't see sense. And so the Council of State was passed. Subsequently, we have heard President Kufuor argue for the abolition of the Council of State and its replacement by the same occupational groups. I believe that either Osafo gave him a copy of my memo, or, to do him justice, probably he also saw that it was a wise thing to do.
There are those who have argued that the presence of Madam Hawa Compson at the polling station that allegedly began all of this was uncalled for, that she should not have been there.
I wouldn't say she should not have been there.
Okay.
She had the right to be there. But you see, the very personality and behavior of how Akumsin is so provocative that she invites problems for herself. She acts like, how shall I say, a one-woman warrior. You know.
Yasantua kind of?
Not Yasantua.
Okay.
Can never be Yasantua. Yasantua was a queen mother. She behaved in the strictest manner that was expected of a queen mother. But this one, a rabble-rouser wherever she goes. But nonetheless, I don't think she deserved to be attacked. And I believe the government must do something about it in terms of identifying the culprits and bringing them to book.
Do you believe that will happen?
Is history going to repeat itself? You see, the NDC, as a political party, has a greater moral responsibility. Not because it is now in power, but by virtue of its historical process of becoming, imbued with the principles of probity, accountability, and social justice. So the standard of judging the performance of the government, especially of the NDC government, must be higher. And therefore, it is up to President Mahama that history does not repeat itself, like happened at Ayawaso. Ayawaso was a state-sponsored thuggery. This was not. But nonetheless, the NDC still bear responsibility because the people involved are alleged to have come from the NDC. There is no evidence, but it is up to the police to identify who the culprits are.
For the benefit of the doubt, how do you differentiate between Ayawaso being a state-sponsored and Ablekuma North not being a state-sponsored?
Oh, but you saw it. The whole 8 years of Akufo-Addo regime was a fascist organization. Fascist. From the way they dress, brown jackets and so on and so on, just like Hitler, to the bravado with which they attack people. State-sponsored. Not only were they identifiable as state personnel from the security services, but they were armed. Where did they get the guns from? And how come the police were so immobilized? Because the police couldn't do anything, knowing that these people are coming from the national security.
Does it come to you as a surprise when after Ayawaso, the security could not do anything? Ablekuma North, the security could not do anything?
That's the sycophants I'm talking about. The lack of professionalism. You look to see who is in power and you act accordingly. And that shouldn't be. Our public and civil servants must come to know that their loyalty is to the Constitution, not to the regime. So professionalism must be exhibited automatically.
People, I've seen people calling for the head of the IGP for superintending over what happened in Ablekuma, the men not being able to do anything.
He was not there.
But
there could have been an officer in charge of operations. So the investigation must embrace this officer. Okay. How come your men behave like they were dolts, standing by and watching the chaos go on? We must be transparent and accountable.
Should the president have spoken by now on it?
The president is not in the country. I have this morning learned from a brief interview of Chamima Muslim that the vice president has issued a statement. I haven't seen the statement. The same with Muntaka, who said the vice president has issued a statement, but I haven't seen a statement. So I don't know what is going on.
Were you looking forward to that particular statement, or
Yes,
a government position?
So.
Or happened?
I think so. I think so. The government must speak, if for no other reason than to disassociate itself from the people who misbehave like that. And the party too has a duty to identify. Why should our inter-party politics become so violent? I was personally assaulted at the traffic light of Adabraka. 8 years later, the man comes to me and says, there are rumors going on that I was the one who assaulted you. I said, you are. He said, oh, but even though I use a Tigo, I said, have I mentioned Tigo car? I know it's you who assaulted me. But 8 years is a long time. I bear you no rancor. He was guilty. His guilty conscience was pushing him towards me to more or less say it wasn't you, or you thought I had forgotten his face and that kind of thing. But that's the nature of the politics that is going on. And it's not acceptable.
Does it scare you?
I was born in the midst of political conflict and violence at Ashanti Newtown. I've seen a woman killed in broad daylight, 2 o'clock in the afternoon, in the most brutal, barbaric way. I was one of the school children who used to, over the weekend, we go to in those days, you have rubbish dumps. And there was an attendant, and now and then he will burn the rubbish dump. So we go and look for empty bottles, wash it out, and every morning going to school, I will deposit my collection at Chiami Akoto's house, because it was on the way to my school, Kumasi State School. You know what the bottles were for? For his action troopers, led by one Edusei, thump into a soda, shaking and throw it, bomb. Why? So I'm not afraid. But what I'm worried about is the longevity. How long should this be tolerated? And to what extent will it destroy our society? Are we going to wait till it becomes open warfare? Or are we going to stop it now? That is something that we need to do.
We have Akwatia by-election to go for. Akwatia has been in the news before for similar electoral violence. With what is happening in Ablekuma North, how can the state prevent something similar in Akwatia?
That's up to the police. They have the responsibility. Because what did we have? We had Chirpani, was it? We had Etiwa. We had, well, there were so many, including Ayawasu, West Wuogon, and so on and so forth. So should every by-election be characterized by violence? Dampari, whatever his faults, managed to secure people from violence during the Asin North elections. I think the current IGP must take a leaf from Dampari's tactics and use it. There is no harm in learning from somebody. We are all learning. And we learn by experience. So I urge the IGP to take note of the need to prevent a recurrent episode at Akwetiao.
You've been a former defense minister before. This happened on Friday.
Yeah.
Some faces live on camera. Our young lady was assaulted. You could see men being brutally assaulted.
Actually, I saw the young lady, but I don't think the guy hit her. He made a threatening move towards her. The young lady backed into her friends. Well, threatening can be reclassified as assault anyway.
There was one that you saw the young man assaulting her.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
Another one.
So her eye, her I think was the right eye, was reddish.
That's bad.
Now, so after all this, we're still being told that the police is looking at the CCTV footages. Is that enough? If we have not been able to pinpoint one or two faces as being the culprit?
Well, if police investigation is going to reveal the full facts of the incident, that's okay. But that it will not be like previous incidents where the police had the responsibility of investigating and bringing out reports and they just shelved the issue. This time, it's not because Howard Kumsin was assaulted. Every assault is an assault. Doesn't matter whether it's Kwekufuri or the president's children who are assaulted. The law must not discriminate.
In fact, there was a man who was brutally assaulted live on television.
I see.
But a lot of people were just beating him.
I haven't seen that one.
Oh, okay.
I saw the Howard Kumsin one.
Okay, okay. Interesting. But must the security concerning elections be left only to the police? Because people argue that had the military been around, the youth could not have done what they did.
No. Using military for internal security is not advisable.
Okay.
The military can be used for more important things, that is destroying our country. We feed the soldiers, we clothe them, we put them in houses. What for? Why is illegal mining going on? Where is the military? That's what they should do. Our territorial integrity is being attacked. That is what we set up the military for, not for internal security. 2 months ago, I don't know whether it was on Mansa Musa's program or on one of our local TV networks. But I said, and I'm happy that my opinion was echoed by Nyaho Nyaho Tamaklo only last week. All you need is to deploy 2 battalions, 1,000 men, supported by 2 platoons of engineers regiment, 30-30, 1,060 people. And you can flush all these illegal miners out of our forests.
Really?
Oh yes, because they move. At every spot where you clear, you leave 50 men to come there. 3 weeks, that's all you need. And that deployment would ensure that these people leave our waters and our forests alone.
How long will the 50 men be stationed there?
3 weeks. They are deployed for 3 weeks. That's all you need.
And after 3 weeks, the galamseyers won't come back?
No, they won't. Because they wouldn't know that you have to move out. But for the next 3 weeks, you flush them out for 3 weeks, they won't come back.
But if this will work, I'm sure you're not the only one who knows. The army hierarchy may probably know this. Why haven't we done that?
Well, you have your commander-in-chief. Why hasn't he thought about that? If the goodwill that the people of Ghana gave the NDC is going to be dissipated. It will have to be the inaction on galamsey issues and corruption issues. So far, we've had the Attorney General in the quest for transparency coming out to reveal steps that he has taken to bring certain persons to book. But so far, we haven't seen any prosecution yet. And I don't trust the special prosecutor. He talks big, he talks small. He doesn't know what he's doing. It's a shame. Is he protecting them? Look at the mess he made of the Cecilia case. Look at even the prosecution of this guy from this MC candidate.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Eh? He's never succeeded in any prosecution on corruption. So what are we paying him for?
But he can prosecute. But if the judges disagree with him, there's an extent to which he can perform.
If you build up your case, the judges will not ignore evidence. The judge will not ignore the evidence. But if you fail to present a convincing evidence, then that's what you're going to get from the judgment.
So you believe he's not been able to build his case as well?
No, I don't think he's building his case as well. He talks too much.
What would be your advice then?
That's my advice. Talk less, do more.
Interesting. So with the galamsey, you don't agree with people who say shoot to kill is option. You think that deploy the men 3 ways they would do it.
Deploy 2 battalions, 1,000 men of infantry, and flush them out of the place.
If this government is not able to do it, will you be disappointed?
Yes, I would be. Because it was an electoral promise. And you can't take Ghanaians for a ride. Akufo-Addo didn't care. So you don't say that Ghanaians don't care about your administration, whether you fight galamsey or not. If he doesn't solve the galamsey problem, 2008, the Ghanaian people will vote NDC out. I'm telling you.
You mean 2028?
Yeah, 2028.
But the Akufo-Addo, you say, didn't care, also instituted...
He was a fascist, he didn't care.
Oh, so what he was doing was for nothing?
What did he do?
He deployed military to go...
When people at the Jubilee House were directly involved in galamsey. And just this morning I read that an MC in the Ashanti region also has taken the drip equipment to go and do galamsey. So far, there is no response from this man. But what is the presidency doing? Eh? First of all, he's stealing, because to be a thief is to take possession of another man's property without his authority, with the intention of using it. And he's using it for illegal purposes, if it is true. Then there is this allegation against a regional chairman of the NDC in the Western region.
Okay, so a constituency chairman.
Constituency chairman.
Yes, please.
Why? Eh? And yet you promised the people of Ghana that you were going to uproot galamsey. These people are killing us slowly. Right now, if you're drinking water, you are scared. The food that you eat, you are scared. Whether it's not contaminated by metals. This is an assault on our territorial integrity. And that's a job for the army. 1,000 men, 2 battalions, flush them out. If necessary, shoot to kill. Because they are killing us.
That would be against the human rights.
What human rights? Are they observing the human rights of 32 million Ghanaians? These people, are they observing it? Do they care? Look at the devastation that they are doing to our forests. And they should not have an excuse that I'm only a worker and I work for somebody. During Akufo-Addo's time, you saw clips of people brazenly saying, galamsey, what kind of behavior is this? The average Ghanaian only understands buga buga. Oh.
But at least in this government, 6 months, they've launched the Blue Water Initiative.
What Blue Water? 6 months is long enough. 6 months is long enough.
And they've launched the Blue Initiative. They're now saying that Gold Board is the only entity in charge of buying gold. Are these not the right steps?
Well, these are recommendable policies. But stop the galamsey. Stop the illegal mining. Stop the damage to our waters and our forests. That is of prime importance. Because whatever policy measures and programs you have put in place will not yield the requisite results if you don't stop the galamsey and the wanton destruction of our environment.
Would you support people who say, declare the state of emergency and let's deal with this?
I'm sure they are right. What damage would the declaration of a state of emergency cause the government? Or foreign investment or local investment? What damage? You are not going to issue a perpetual state of emergency. And the state of emergency need not cover even the whole territory. You say the forest reserves and our waters are no-go areas for all kinds of people, unless authorized. Forestry officers will be authorized to enter. They are outside the bound. Anybody else found there must be prosecuted. And I thought President Mahama said that any MC or DC whose area or district is found to be entertaining galamsey will be dismissed instantly. So all these discoveries of people engaging in galamsey, what has happened to the DCEs? Because they must know. You can't be a hypocrite. You shouldn't be a hypocrite. There is no reason for you to be selective in your administration of justice. That is not democracy. We are all equal before the law. What is good for the goose is good for the gander.
"6 months. Do you have a period after which, if nothing is done in the fight against galamsey as you expect, will you say you are disappointed?
I'm already disappointed in the fight against galamsey. I hope it's not just rhetoric, that more positive steps and actions will be undertaken. But so far as every day people are discovered, Chinese people, local people are discovered in our forests, it goes against the grain of the government. And I'm disappointed. 6 months is long enough.
That's your party. Have you called them to express your frustration?
No.
Why?
There is no need. We have people who think. People who think.
But you are an elder of the party, so if they are going somewhere that...
I don't think I'm considered as an elder, even though I'm approaching 80 years. There is no event involving elders of the country that have ever been invited. And yet the president knows my age. Last time I think the presidency hosted elderly citizens. I never got an invitation. But it doesn't bother me. I'm not looking forward to be invited. I've shaken hands with many presidents and monarchs all the way to Japan. I've sat down and ate with the Emperor of Japan. So I'm not perturbed.
Could it be because you endorsed Baumia in the race for the presidency?
Oh, Mr. Flip-Flopper. The man is not trustworthy. He's not trustworthy at all.
But you endorsed him?
I never endorsed him.
Okay.
How did I endorse him? That article that came, I think 2017 or so, says that Dr. Tony Aidoo says there is no economist in the NDC who can match Baumia. I never said that.
Okay.
I said the mistake of the NDC is that they never tackled Baumia to expose his lies. That's precisely the statement I make.
Okay.
I was in the Netherlands at the time. And I said, will you give this man a free ride to spew his theoretical garbage? And it was theoretical garbage.
Okay. So, I mean, aside galamsey, in 6 months, this government has done, as some people put it, some good things.
Oh, yes.
What's your rating of the government 6 months on?
Well, I rate the government 70%.
Okay. That's high.
That's high. But then I have to factor in the lukewarm fight against galamsey. And therefore, I reduce it by 10 to 60.
Oh, okay.
Yes. Galamsey must be eliminated, must be uprooted from our society. Doesn't matter who is profiting by it.
Interesting. Dr. Tony Aidoo is a former ambassador to the Netherlands. He's a former defense minister, and we're having this chat with him. In fact, he was a member of the Consultative Assembly that drafted Ghana's 1992 Constitution. So, what's your expectation of this government? You've given them 60%, you want them to fight galamsey, but in general, now the dollar the cedi is quite strong against the dollar and what have you. What's your general expectation of the government?
Well, so far, it's still riding the positive wave of the electorate. I'm not the one to gainsay it. And I think he should continue and do even better.
Okay.
There are so many things that need to be done. Our roads need to be fixed. That one, he has to do it. We have very little money. And this brings me to another issue that I pointed out in 2009 when we first came to power. Dr. Kobina...
Arthur Kennedy?
No. Our own finance minister at the time.
Dufour.
Kobina Dufour was there. So were the current vice president.
Professor Nana Jane Opoku.
Yes, she was there. P.V. Obin was there. A whole host of other intelligent people and leading members of the NDC. We were at this man's resort, the spa at old age.
That's fine.
Sogakope.
Oh, okay.
A retreat to discuss the steps towards economic recovery. So I said to Dr. Dufour, let's tap diasporan money. Let's tap the money that the diasporans send to their relatives. Open a second window at the Bank of Ghana. cut out the private recipients and middlemen. Let the money come and reside in that account. Give the depositors 1 or 2%, because at that time, if you have savings in England, you weren't getting even 0.2%. So you offer the man 2%. That is very profitable. Then the government can borrow from these funds, because the condition is that it's a fixed deposit account for about 6 months or so. Less than 6 months, you can continue. And we're talking about, at that time, about 4 billion worth of remittances. We went to IMF for just 3 billion. Mm-hmm. I think Pakwesi Misata then asked me, who is going to pay the interest? And I said, currently you are borrowing on your short-term 91-day securities at about 35 to 40%. Mm. When you go and borrow from the overseas markets, you pay 9% plus LIBOR. 2%, you can't pay, you are equivalent over 2%. Now, we are faced with money for this policy of big push infrastructure. At the same time, European countries, especially Netherlands, Germany, UK, etc., are overwhelmed by the migration into their territory. And you have Ghanaians who have reached retirement age. What you have to do is initiate a policy of pension follows the pensioner. They can come back to their country and receive their pension. And that pension, passed through the Bank of Ghana deposit, can be given to the government with an appreciable percentage interest. This requires a minister-to-minister approach, our foreign minister. Because when I was leaving the Netherlands, I in my handing over notes, I spelled this out, that this would be a good policy.
But the monies are for some people.
Yes.
If you keep it, for example, if my father sends me money from UK, and I needed to pay my school fees now, and you keep it, how do I get it to pay my fees?
Yeah, but you see, we are talking about your loanable funds. We are not talking about money that you need for your day-to-day expenses.
Okay.
And every month, the man gets his pension, so it builds up. In Ghana, even though the cost of living is very high, it's not as high as it will be in the Netherlands or UK. Because there, electricity, transport, etc., they are all very, very expensive. So, if the man's pension follows him, the advantage is that is for the host Netherlands country, is that you remove the pull factor of migration. As he is there, his sister's son, his nephew, etc., because he's there, he's the point at which they can come to the Netherlands. If he's not there, the migration to those places will slow down. Okay. So you have to convince the foreign government that this is the advantage you will get, so that you can manage the immigrants. And you, the proposer, will also gain. Okay. Because the pension coming into your domain gives you the necessary foreign exchange.
So it means we have to help them relocate to Ghana?
Yes.
Okay. At the government's expense?
Oh, no.
Okay.
The man wants to come to Ghana. Okay. He has relatives here. Some have even put up their buildings. Some of them, because they are obliged to return to the place of their surgeon, every year in order to be a notice that they are still resident in the... Yes, that's cost. But if he was in his own country and the pension is following him, there will be no need for that expensive travel.
Okay, all right.
This is diplomacy, economic diplomacy.
And that's to help the big push.
Yeah.
Now, one of the things this government says it will also do is the 24-hour economy. That's exciting also.
Oh yes, I've seen it working at the ports and harbors, where they are working 24 hours. But it's not only government establishments that constitute the target. Private sector must get in there. And what is important is that within a year of implementation, you must have results. You must be able to have impact analysis of the effects that they have so that you can see whether it's a good policy, beneficial policy or not. I don't know whether they have an M&E system. I know John Mahama doesn't believe in my M&E thing. Yeah, but I can assure you that when I went to the Netherlands, the guy who built the M&E system at the office of the president during Mills' time is the guy who came and put the missions, passport, and visa application and approval system online. It cost me only 12,000. That included his airfare, the honorarium I gave him, the rent he paid, and the acquisition of printers for the system. When I left, they discarded it and went for an alternative that cost the mission 450,000 euros every year.
Oh.
And you don't own the license. What I did was, the license was in-house, because it's in-house built. They took it to Spain, and they were printing passports with it. 12,000, 12,000. 450,000.
Every year?
Every year.
And the 12,000 was one-time payment?
You know what, it was discarded by Ayakobochi. Because you can't sign a contract without the minister's approval. And yet when I went and I saw that thing, I said, no way. So I brought this guy to the Netherlands. And within 2 months, he has built a system, robust. If I show you my handing over notes, within 6 months of operating that system, we raised our revenue by more than 1,000% because of the quick turnover.
But this 24-hour economy is big. I don't know if you found a document and whether you think, for what you read, you know, everything in there can be achieved as we set out as a country.
I haven't seen the document. Okay. I was not consulted and I don't know.
But if you listen to the commentary around it?
I've listened to the commentary.
Are you moved by it?
Well, I'm moved. It's an initiative. It's an innovation. And even though when you go abroad, most cities don't sleep. They run around. I used to do nights for 10 years. I worked in the kitchen as a chef on Trimitier. For 10 years. That's what I used to school myself, all the way from my graduate studies to my postgraduate to my PhD. And I was working nights.
But the criticism of it is that people say, we don't see the 133 as promised in the document.
The what?
The one job, 3 people, 3 shifts.
But if it's happening at the ports and harbor overnight, you must deduce that it's not just one person carrying on from 8 o'clock to the next morning.
Yeah.
There must be a rota. And so follow the rota and see the extent to which the workers change their time of working.
Just that people say when we look at the document, we don't see that happening. What we see is...
You can't see it on paper.
They say it's akin to the one district, one factory policy.
No,
that's
it
what
isn't.
They say.
It isn't. Even though I haven't read the document, I don't think different. It is.
Okay.
One district, one factory policy. What was it? Just giving money to cronies. It was crony capitalism at its worst.
Okay.
Giving them tax holidays and concessions. And what did they do? Every time they open their mouth, oh, you can feed juice.
Anyway, we're just about wrapping up, but let me pick your thoughts on the Chief Justice and what is happening to her. You've been around too long.
Oh.
What do you make of the current happening to the CJ?
I think she has thrown caution to the winds. Either she knows that she is going to be removed, and therefore she wants a pound of flesh with a suit for $10 million as compensation for defamation. I don't know which court, whether it's our national courts or at the ECOWAS court, that she has filed this claim. Or she feels that she will win and get all the reliefs that she's hoping for. The question is, if she wins, who is she going to work with? Who is she going to work with?
The judiciary is not fighting with her.
It's not the judiciary. The judiciary and the executive must be in sync. Because they are held at arm's length doesn't mean that there must not be any interaction.
Must be independent of each other.
Interdependent, not independent.
Is that how you call it?
Sometimes we use the words and we don't seem to appreciate it. You are interdependent. The Constitution gives you the leverage of how far you can go. But we are all subject to the constitutional injunctions. Everything that President Mahama has done has been constitutionally correct. What is her beef? That her human rights has been trampled on. Which human rights? The Constitution is the one that is defining the steps to be taken. The only point at which President Mahama had the jurisdiction was the choice of whether to send you home on suspension or to retain you. And every legal-minded person will know that you cannot retain a person who is going through such inquisition at post. It will be ridiculous for the Chief Justice to be at post while she is being examined by the Constitutional Committee of 5. So the President did the obvious, logical thing. She said, stay away and let the process carry itself. Every step of the process is determined by the Constitution. And this suit for $10 million, she was the first one who put the matter in the public domain. If there is any defamation, she is the source.
How do you know she's the one?
Oh, the letter she wrote to President Mahama. President Mahama's response when she said, take 10 days, not 7 days. Who released it into the public?
But you can't point it to her.
Oh, she did it because she appended to her response her defense. She appended her defense.
You have evidence that she was the one who did it? It couldn't have been anybody from your presidency?
No. Look, she was defending the charge of dictating to the former president the appointment of 5 Supreme Court judges, for which is it Kuku Azar, who
petition for her removal in December 2020.
Yes. And she defended it on the basis of the doctrine of res judicata. But res judicata is a doctrine that says that when a case has been carried through process to the point of judgment, the individual should not be tried a second time. It is what we call in common parlance double jeopardy. You are a lawyer. You are the judge. You are the chief justice. The law is in your bosom. And you raise res judicata as your defense when that matter was not carried to the point of finality.
Okay.
It's like saying that the Attorney General has filed a nolle prosequi, and therefore all future Attorney Generals are stopped from invoking charges against the defendant.
Okay.
That's how it is.
So the Chief Justice should go?
I am not the one saying. The Constitution says if she's guilty of the charges, she should go.
Okay. All right. With what happened in Ablekuma North, the NDC winning, they now have 2/3 of parliament.
Yes.
People say subtly, this is something that could allow President Mahama do a third term.
That's
do you
nonsense.
think he should do that?
That's nonsense. Okay. That's absolute nonsense. It's the propaganda started by Afinyo Maki that the president wants a third term. That's why he's removing the Chief Justice and so on and so forth. These people who propagate this, do you think Ghanaians are dolts? We are so stupid? We sit here criticizing other leaders who change the constitution to suit themselves. And then we accept the same thing happening in our country. They know it's not possible. It won't happen. The President Mahama will not do it. The President Mahama, I know, will not go for a third term. Therefore, he's not going to exploit the majority in Parliament.
He's enjoying an enormous goodwill. If he says he's going to go, will you be disappointed?
Yes, I would be.
Okay. Dr. Tony Aidoo, I'm grateful to you for speaking to us.
My pleasure.
On the Joy News channel.
My pleasure. Thank you.
And that's been our interaction with a statesman, Dr. Tony Aidoo. You can catch this live on this channel and all our social media platforms. Enjoy your day.